family. We are so glad that you are sticking with us for our special live coverage of the 52nd Annual Legislative Conference for the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm joined now with our guest, Congressman Troy Carter out of Louisiana. We also have Kelly Bethia, our BWNC correspondent, joining us for this conversation as well. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. We are about to step into a timely conversation around mental health in the Black community. You just got done with a panel called Our Kids Are Not Okay and Neither Are We. So just tell us a little bit about, what that panel was like and some of the information that you all went over. We know that, there's some really disturbing stats that have said that suicide attempts among Black youth have gone up 80% between 1991 and 2019. So
yeah, and we're trying to really use our voice and our platform to educate people, to bring together experts from around the world to talk about these issues. We just had a panel discussion where we brought noted professionals in to talk about the notion of it's okay to not be okay sometimes, and that our kids are not okay, and neither are we. And we live in this world where social media paints pictures that everyone's perfect, that your household's perfect, that your life is perfect. And the children are looking at them and they say, wait a minute, my life's not perfect. And so the social media has been a part of the problem as much as anything else, as well as COVID. We don't know still what the after effects of COVID will have on our young people, but we see it manifesting itself in greater attempts at suicide, greater successful carries out of suicide, more alcoholism, more drug abuse, and people that don't understand that they have an imbalance, they seek to self-medicate and they turn for help in a crack pipe or in alcohol or drugs. And we want to demonstrate to young people, and quite as kept, not so young, that it's okay to not be okay sometimes, but it's not okay to ignore it. And so a part of this discussion is making sure that we're telling our young people that you're not alone. We have a federally funded 988 hotline that people can pick up the phone and they can call and they can talk about their issues. 3 a.m. they wake up and they're thinking about suicide. There's somebody always available. We don't track you. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to tell who you are. You don't have to tell where you are, but you can talk to professionals that can help you. We know that the isolation of COVID has caused significant problems with our young people, not having people to be around, not having your friends. We also know that the most hardened criminals in the world have been broken down through solitary confinement, isolation. Our babies have had to be exposed to that. So part of our discussion is to hopefully end the stigma of you're crazy if you have to see a doctor. Men, little boys are taught, suck it up. Big boys don't cry. So then we're programmed to believe that somehow we can handle anything. But you take an aspirin if you have a headache. You take diabetes medicine if you have diabetes or high blood pressure. You exercise, you change your diet. But somehow we think with mental health, it'll go away on its own. It won't. But there are people out there to help. And as we see the ratcheting up of mental health needs and the lack thereof in our school system, the lack thereof in the Black community, we see it manifest itself in so many other ways. But these are reversible. We can fix them. We can help. And we're fighting to make sure that we're bringing resources to bear to do that.
I think it's really, also like just within like being part of the Black community, you're kind of like taught that, or it's just kind of like taboo,
Sure.
to talk about if you're dealing with depression, if maybe you need to go seek therapy, but we're like just kind of taught that it's like you don't talk about it and you don't need to air your dirty laundry with anybody else who's not involved. So thank you for amplifying, that work and the need for, if it's okay, like the message that it is okay, like if you need help.
And it's okay if you failed. It's okay if you didn't get the job you wanted. It's okay if you didn't get the grade you wanted. One of the things that we're all guilty of Undoubtedly, you guys get invited to speak at graduations and at events, and you're there because you're successful. People already know that. But then we tell them about how successful we are, when we should be telling them how many times we failed. Yeah, we made it. Yeah, we're here, and we've enjoyed success, but it wasn't always easy. And it didn't come without a challenge. And it didn't come without discrimination. It didn't come without some folk hating on you. It didn't come without criticism. And it didn't come without some sleepless nights. But you got there because you kept going.
Right.
Because you found comfort in talking through it. And maybe you had to see somebody. And maybe you had to talk to your preacher or your girlfriend or somebody. We have to let our children know that there's somebody you can talk to. And that our lives have not always been perfect. And we haven't always gotten it right. But there's an eraser on pencils because sometimes we make mistakes. But if our children see us and they think, oh yeah, you're all that because you're special, we got to tell them, no, we're not. We're just like you. Look, I grew up in a small community in New Orleans called The Cutoff. And it's a quaint, beautiful community, but there were some real challenges in that community. My mother raised 6 of us by herself. She went back to school and got her own education and pushed us to do the same. Listen, there were no silver spoons in my house, but there was a lot of prayer, and there was a lot of encouragement, and there was a lot of hugging and touching and loving, and that's what we have to get back to. We got to hug our kids. We got to tell them we love them. We got to tell them it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad. My grandmother, when we were little, would say, if you came in and you were looking kind of down, she'd say, what's wrong with you, baby? You're a little blue? People don't even know what that means anymore because we don't talk about it.
Right.
We got to ask our kids, are you okay, man? You seem a little sad. Let's talk about it. Because if you don't, and you let them fall in line with the big boys don't cry, suck it up, and the girls, you don't talk your business, keep people out of your business. That's all good stuff, but not in every case.
So a large component that I don't think is talked about enough within the Black community and specifically surrounding this issue, again, the panel is called The Kids Are Not Okay, and neither are we. But the emphasis of why the kids are not okay, I think a large component of that is, for lack of a better phrase, the adultification of these children. Black children not being seen as children and being seen as older. I mean, even in the criminal justice field of it, like when we saw the tragedy of Tamir Rice, and they didn't see him as a 12-year-old boy. They saw him as a grown man. We don't know how. But like the immediate aging of our children, it both outside and sometimes even inside the home might be a component as to why they're not okay. And they resort to this very extreme solution of suicide. And I use that term solution very loosely, not to imply that it is one, but that's what they think it is. Can you expound on the need for the adults to continue treating children like children so that this tragedy doesn't keep happening?
You know, unfortunately, you put your finger on a very significant point. Our young people are being forced to grow up sooner than they should. And their childhoods are being truncated because they're forced to grow up faster because of whatever. Environmental factors, factors at home, the stress to be big and bad on the street or in school. And so, you know, the time of spending tops and marbles are gone, unfortunately. And our kids feel they're playing video games and they're shooting them up and all this kind of stuff. And we have a different way of processing our fears, our concerns, our needs. And we got to go back to letting kids be kids while we help groom them to become adults.
Correct.
And we can't assume that they know things without telling them those things. Because we sometimes think it's a double-edged sword, right? We want them to not grow up too fast, but then we want to treat them as an adult, in some cases, babies in others. We got to talk to our kids, because if you don't talk to them, the streets will. And if you don't teach them how to cope and how to process, and also how to protect themselves with people who try to treat them as adults just because they may look older than some. Our children need the same love, affection, and attention that we had we have to let them know we love them. Statistically, we show, the numbers will bear out, that children that are not told I love you, who are not embraced, they have a different outcome because they don't have that same familiar bonding. And quiet as it's kept, it doesn't have to just come from your mom or your dad. It can come from the church. It can come from a caring teacher. Statistics say that all you need is one caring person to demonstrate they care about you, to check in on you, that will make all the difference in your mental health. Just one. Doesn't have to be your mom and dad, but it's perfect if it is. It could be a neighbor, could be an aunt, could be a friend, could be a school counselor. Kids need interaction. And your point of still allowing them to be kids.
Yeah.
You know, there's a song that, there was a popular song that said, hold on to 18 as long as you can, because change is coming around real soon, make us women and men. Let kids be kids.
Yeah.
And understand and help them navigate the challenges of being a youth in America in 2023. It ain't what it used to be.
Congressman, I know you have to go, but just quickly, can you kind of just touch on the disparities in access to care for mental health as it relates to Black people versus other ethnic groups?
Well, COVID showed us what we already knew, but it made it a glaring example of the disparities between communities of Black and Brown versus the counterparts, where the access to health care was always a challenge. Mental health is almost non-existent.
Right.
So there's no component for Medicaid or Medicare to kick in to help in many ways. We have to make sure that if we want a healthy community, that we have resources that are fair and there's equity in the space of mental health. Before President Obama was successful in getting Obamacare, millions of people didn't have any health care. Now we're better, but mental health remains a space that we have a significant deficit in. Correctly also is the amount of professional African Americans and people of color who are in this space as doctors, as counselors, as 3%.
Wow.
3%.
Yeah.
So I have a bill which is the Mental Health Workforce Act, which will create an incentive for young people who are going to college and to graduate school who go into the mental health care space, that we will offer debt forgiveness for their education if they agree to practice in the communities that are impacted. That'll make a huge difference because the reality is people trust people that look like them, that speak their language, that understand their burden, understand their history, understand their culture. Yet we have an overwhelming need, but 3% of professionals in the country look like us. So the Workforce Act will give us an opportunity to get more people in the space. Creating opportunities by having the 988 hotline will give people a chance to talk about it. Fighting for equity in the mental health care space, that we have not only more professionals who provide the service, but also more resources so people can take advantage of it. And then lastly, to constantly remind people that it's okay to not be okay sometimes and to seek help. And also, you're not alone. You're just not. A supermajority of people in America suffer some form of anxiety, depression, or mental imbalance. Also, a supermajority of them have never gotten help. It doesn't go away. It doesn't get better by itself, but it can get better, and you can live a very happy and fulfilling life, but you got to talk about it.
Thank you, Congressman Carter, so much for talking with us about this issue. And can you just repeat that number one more time, the federal
988. 988 is a free hotline that you can pick up and dial like you would dial 911 or 411. 988 will immediately contact you to a trained professional 24/7 who will listen to your concerns and help you identify resources. Totally confidential, totally private. No one will ask your name, your address, your phone number. You don't have to disclose any of that, but you can talk to someone and get good advice until you can get to a more permanent professional.
Thank you again. Thank you so much, Congressman Carter, for joining us. BWNC family, don't go anywhere. We will be back momentarily with some more great interviews. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you. Keep spreading the word.
Likewise.
Thank you.
you.
All right.